Shamrock FC 343 goes down a week from now, February 18th, and I happen to be talking to the man who will be headlining that event. He is one of my favorite fighters to interview. He's back with me again. Everyone should know this man by now, Josh Augustine. Josh, always a pleasure to have you, man. You look great. I like the chains.
Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
A lot of things have been going down. I talk to you all the time, but the last one of these that we did, it was like 3 months ago, and you're getting ready to headline against Izzy William. That fight was supposed to happen on October 24th. It never ended up going through, though. What happened with that?
Right, about 10 days out, we started having some contractional issues with Izzy on Izzy's side, and he ended up not making the walk. We tried to find, a bunch of opponents at 155 pounds throughout the Midwest, and we just couldn't get anyone to sign on the dotted line. And at that time, I was trending down towards lightweight. Obviously, I've been known to do fights at welterweight and stuff, but I couldn't take a fight at welterweight at that time just because I'm down ready to make weight at lightweight, and that was a very specific thing for that one fight against Weston. So it just didn't work out. Now here we are.
I know it's been kind of like a frustrating thing for you. Like every single time you're getting ready to fight, you get like a lineup of guys that come through from a preparatory standpoint. Like, how is it that you have been able to like prepare for all of these fights? Like you're preparing for events, really, not so much opponents because it always changes. And I wanted to ask you, like, at your level, you're right on the precipice of getting signed by like Bellator, PFL, UFC, whatever, getting a shot. So it's like the stakes are getting higher and higher, but the legitimacy of the opponents, are they going to show up? Are they not going to show up? That's always a little bit of a question mark. How difficult is that? Because you never really know if you're preparing for a grappler, a jiu-jitsu guy, a striker like you. How difficult is that?
Well, I feel like where my game's at right now, I'm extremely well rounded, and I'm able to deal with anyone at around this level and even into the lower ranks of those top tier promotions.
Mm-hmm.
I could go in on a sparring day at any gym and not only compete but outshine a lot of those guys. So I try not to worry about that. I try to just focus on improving myself every single day and let everything else kind of fall into place, especially with these lower tier matchups. Obviously, I'm a student of the sport and I love to watch and do film and really get specific with people. So whenever I get to those tougher guys and being around really high level guys here at Xtreme, it gets me so excited for those type of fights. So that way, looking at how I'm going to prepare for those is going to be a little bit different. But for this level, for me, it's really just about making sure I'm 100% healthy, as fast as I can be, as strong as I can be, the best shape I can possibly be in. My striking's as tight as possible. My wrestling's as tight as possible. My jiu-jitsu is as tight as possible. And, my mindset is right where I need it to be to compete at the highest level.
You're a guy that has been in this game for many years. You're a veteran of mixed martial arts. You have a lot of wisdom. You know a lot about this sport, and there are a lot of people that would be wise to like pick your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of amateur fighters, as you well know, Josh, that watch my show. These lineup changes, they're commonplace in amateur MMA. They're commonplace when you first get started as a pro. What would your advice be to some of these guys that are like you that encounter lineup changes all the time? You think you're going to fight a wrestling guy, all of a sudden he falls out. You're getting ready to fight a jiu-jitsu guy. First couple times that happens in your career, that's got to be incredibly frustrating and incredibly
Right.
nerve-wracking. You deal with this all the time. What would your advice be to somebody like that who's just getting started that might be sweating the lineup changes?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can remember those days and it really is nerve-wracking. It really does suck. But that's a part of being an amateur and that's a part of signing up and that's a part of gaining that experience. Now, you have to be smart about your matchups because sometimes promotions will try to fuck you. Certain promotions I've seen, smaller promotions, like really small rink-a-dink promotions, bring in guys that are, 10 pounds heavy and stuff like that. So you got to be really smart about what's going on around you. But if you're dealing with a guy that is around your level and is weighing in at the same weight as you, and you guys are both, around as the same experience level at the amateur level, get in there and get those scraps, get as much experience as possible. For me, I did a lot of boxing and kickboxing and Muay Thai tournaments and jiu-jitsu tournaments. So it was very natural for me whenever I moved over to MMA to feel just the experience side of it. So I would say just get out there and compete as much as possible whenever you're an amateur, and then you got to be really smart about your matchups whenever you turn pro. But you don't want to be worried about any scenario. So get in there and fight a good boxer, get your ass beat by a boxer, get spin kicked by a real good taekwondo guy, not in the head though, and fight, do as many take jiu-jitsu tournaments as far as you possibly can. You're not going to beat those top level jiu-jitsu guys, but that's fine because in an MMA fight, it's not the same thing.
Right.
You need to just take it as far as possible, kick some ass, but whenever you feel like you're at that experience level, get some MMA fights in between. Whenever you're training, if you're beating the pros and stuff like that, make that jump, get after it. Start making some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to making sure you're doing your amateur career smart. You're doing it with a smart approach. You should be going out there not to win, but like prioritizing experience and fighting a huge range of guys. That way, when you get to your level, you at least have some sort of like reference point and what to expect. If you get to your level and you haven't planned your amateur career accordingly, maybe not the right position to be in. You may not have done things right because it's for real now. Like it's permanent.
Right.
Like you can't shake off a bad performance like how you can in the amateur circuit.
And it's like, okay, say you get beat up in an MMA fight. Some guys got better hands than you, sitting in the pocket, he picked you apart. You say, you go back to the drawing board, you say, okay, I got to work on my boxing. If you're a pro, you definitely don't want to go take a pro boxing match. I mean, you can go fight another MMA guy and train boxing for a little while and get better. But like you said, it's just not the time. It's whenever you're an amateur, it's okay. If you get beat, you get beat. Move on. Go take 2-3 boxing matches. Go do Golden Gloves. Go do whatever is going on around you. Go to the local rec club and get beat up by a 16-year-old kid that has been boxing since he's been 10 years old, and pick up as much as you possibly can, and then take that back to your MMA gym and look how far that takes you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where it's like, if you're taking these like boxing matches, it's one thing to do that as a professional to get paid. Not casting shade on anybody who does that. You got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, if you're doing that for developmental reasons, it's like, man, we're burning daylight here.
Exactly.
It's like, holy shit, there's a limited time you could do this shit. Like
and the level of guys that you're going to fight at amateur, whenever you're doing that novice experience, you can go with guys and you can hit them a little and learn. If you're not a very good striker, I know a lot of good wrestlers, jiu-jitsu guys that were able to grow in their striking. And even for me, like starting at that lower tier, where you're able to just build up, versus if you're going to hop in, like I said, even with another pro MMA fighter, they're not going to be that bad. They might be around your level, but you're not going to be able to get a guy that you're going to just beat and get better, get the best of, and learn how to work, this or that, whatever you need to work on. You're probably going to get pieced the fuck up, and you're going to get a small paycheck, and you're going to have had a really tough camp that you took a ton of damage. And where did that get you? I mean, you might have gotten a little bit better, but for overall game, it's just a tough go. You got to, as an amateur, you got to get as much experience as possible.
You were at St. Charles MMA for a very long time. You're now at Xtreme Couture in Vegas. You moved from St. Louis to Las Vegas. There are a lot of guys I feel that like move gyms for the wrong reasons. Feel like some people are switching things up when they don't need to be, but then there are other times where it does make sense.
I can say from my experience that being out here, starting to make a little bit of money back home and being around 2 or 3 people that were taking fighting seriously as their job and really trying to expand as a fighter every single day and trying to be the best fighter they can be. You're like a foreign entity, and it's really hard to do in a smaller town, smaller gym atmosphere, especially, I think, honestly, anywhere outside of Vegas. Here you got the PI and, you got a bunch of different big gyms, but me coming here and seeing where I was actually the low guy on the totem pole here.
Right.
Seeing a whole new ceiling of what's actually possible as far as my game, seeing where, not even the low guy on the totem pole as far as like skill set, but like the business side, being able to build up and get better, but also, how you treat this as a job as far as like training, recovery, dealing with coaches, teammates, everything in a whole different professional manner. I think that a huge change for me has just been turning this into my career. This has been a great transition period, a huge learning experience for me to just make this my job is all it is. Like I come home and I got my family, and that's that. and then what I do is what I do outside. And whenever this is done is, I know it's a short window. I know it's a short career, and whenever it's done, it's done. Um, but right now, I think Xtreme Couture is the best, if not, or one of the best, if not the best gyms in the world. We have an incredible coaching staff with Dennis Davis, Eric Nixick, Eddie Bracco. I mean, our list of fighters are unbelievable. I mean, I could go on and on with the guys that I'm training with. I mean, it's been an incredible experience being out here. It's been very affirming knowing, where I'm at, knowing how good my skills are, and knowing what I'm capable of in the very short future. If I do get any opportunities on short notice, or whenever Uncle Dana calls my number, or calls Jason House or Lance Spade, Dana, if you do see this, then I can jump on any opportunity, and I'm not worried about who's matching up with me. It's all about, how I'm going to take them out. And I got a really, great staff of minds around me to help me do that. And it's not just me. It's not just me making it happen all by myself, making my own camp, making my own training schedule, making people show up around me, making everyone else accountable, versus being around a team of guys that no one's going to hold you accountable. But if you aren't pushing yourself every single day, you're going to get your ass whooped every single day.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't want to be the best in the room, you won't be.
Mm-hmm.
You won't even be second, third, fourth. Like, you're going to be getting crushed.
I kind of view it, Josh, like just talking to, the hundreds of fighters all around the world for all the different promotions, and then the Bellator fighters, the PFL fighters, the UFC fighters. Like, here are the things that like I have kind of seen just kind of at my 10,000-foot view. When I think of like a small gym, I think of like community college. And there's a benefit to that, because it's like you can find out if this is for you or not. You can benefit from a smaller pool of guys, more one-on-one attention, and you could really kind of figure out, like, is this what I want to do? That makes sense compared to like maybe going to Harvard right away, and then all of a sudden like you're in the big leagues, and it's like, a class size of 100 people, you have a question, figure that shit out on your own, because nobody's necessarily going to do that for you. It makes sense to kind of like feel your way out, and to start slow, start small, get that one-on-one attention, and kind of figure out if the sport's for you or not. But then when you get to your level, it's like you've been doing this for a long time. You may not always need to have that one-on-one like time. Like, yes, you benefit from just getting time in with very other high-level guys like you, but it's like, I don't know if I'd necessarily start out that way. Like, if you're like an amateur fighter, maybe going to like a big box gym, that might not be the best move for you. Might make sense to start off small. I know that's everyone's different, but I think there's something to be said about starting off like where you did.
No, you're definitely right. And I mean, for me, like, whenever I signed with Iridium, Lance had said, this would be a good spot for you to go, or Glory. Like, they wanted me to go to Glory, or come out here to Xtreme and try out Vegas. And now I see why. Whenever I was like first signed with them, I was like, oh, I don't, it's fine. I'm getting good training. I'm getting better every day. I don't even know what you're talking about. But then going out to Glory, I was like, okay, they're pretty good. I see they got a system, but I was doing so well with their lightweights. I was like, I'll be fine on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then now coming out here and seeing, I feel like out here is even a whole different level, and having the PI and like the access to everything. There's just so many fighters everywhere, and everything is leaned toward this. And obviously being in the fight capital all the time, like, it's huge.
The last time that you set foot in the cage was actually in September of last year. You fought Josh Weston. You pretty much were able to do what it is that you needed to do. The fight doesn't make it out of the second round. You're able to pick them apart, get the win. Like that, when I think of you, I think of striking right away. I think of a guy who's really tall, really strong, able to find range really well, and you're able to like get guys out of there in a relatively short amount of time. You'll be fighting a guy named Josh Henry. He's got a 10-6 record. He has had a track record of doing really well in the past. He takes some time off from the sport. What are your thoughts on this guy? This is your very first fight of 2023. And it looks like you're going up against a guy that has had some success in the past. What do you think about him?
I think that this is going to be my most experienced guy that I'm going to get a really dominant win over. I think that this is a really great opportunity for me to go out and showcase my skill set once again. I think that time off is going to really show itself for him. You know, I've been active throughout so much adversity in my pro career that you know, it's like unbelievable to my family and friends and stuff. And you know, I know that he took a lot of time off, you know, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reasons, and I think that right there, that just shows, you know, that he's not fully in this. It just shows that he's not willing to give everything, you know, and
Yeah.
that's just enough. That's just enough right there. As far as you know, training and stuff goes, you know, I am training with some of the best fighters in the world right now every single day, and at my weight, and I know that he's not doing that, and you know, I plan on showcasing my skills and all the hard work here at Xtreme Couture.
Josh, we're boys. You know, I'm super blunt and I say what's on my mind. Here's what I'm going to say. If I'm this dude, I'm going to try to grapple fuck the shit out of you. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. The last thing I want, you're a big, tall, strong dude. I'm not going to sit back. I'm not going to let you pick me apart. I'm going to be super aggressive. I'm not telling you something you don't already know. You look at this guy, he's short, he's stocky, he's the completely opposite body type that you have. And you're a professional, a student of the game. Like when you've seen his tape, I'm sure you expected some of these things. So when you look at that, you've got to be expecting him to want to make this a grappling match.
Yeah, probably. He also owns a Taekwondo school back in Iowa, so I feel like he might be trying to. I feel like he's going to be planning some trickery for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
But look at those ears. You look at those ears. I see those ears. Yeah, I see you
yeah,
got some
I've
time
been
on the
grinding.
mats.
That's what I was gonna say. I've been grinding out here at Extreme. I'm working with black belts every single day. I'm working with Division 1 wrestlers every single day. So, you know, that's all I'm used to at this point. So if he's not, there's no way that he's going to be able to bring my level of grappling to the cage. I just don't see it. I'm out grappling some very high level guys, and I might have to just take him down. You know, if he touches my legs, I don't see myself not spinning him around and taking him down and really showing off my skill set everywhere. You know, I really am just going to be fluid throughout this fight and let the fight go as it will, because I don't see him being able to outstrike me. He's not going to be able to get those Taekwondo kicks off if he can't control the range. The range is going to be mine. And
And
whenever it
that's
comes to
the
the
other
rest,
thing, right? It's like, well, do you really want to do those kicks? Because they get caught, and then all of a sudden that fight ends up in a place and not, and you know, you're on top of them. And I don't know if you're the type of guy I want on top of me because I've seen you do ground and pound before too. You've gotten opponents out that way in the past too.
right? And I mean, if he just even misses with one of those shots, and you know, it's going to give me an opportunity to connect with a big one, and not even a big one. All I got to do is touch you, and you go to sleep. So, you know, I'm ready. I'm ready for everything. I've put so much time and energy into this, and I've dealt with so much adversity at this camp. You know, coming from St. Louis to Las Vegas wasn't my first choice, and I had to
Mm-hmm.
deal with so much stuff in my life to get out here. I've sacrificed so much, and I'm not gonna let I'm not gonna let anything get in my way right now.
You
Right
go
now, this is
from
my
you go from snapping your leg in 2020 to now, you know, three fights potentially in a row, three finishes. What does that say for the rest of 2023 for you? I think that if I'm you, if I'm your manager, if I'm your agent, if I have to answer that question, it's hey, my guy's got three finishes now, all in a row. Like we're ready for that next level. What do you want to try to accomplish here for the rest of the year?
I think that you know, my last fight, I was still a free agent. This fight, I'm with Iridium. I have that 3 fight streak. I have 3 finishes. Let's get this seventh knockout, 7 wins, 7 knockouts. I think that speaks for itself. The UFC loves to have guys come in and you know do that. I want to be a guy that comes in on short notice right after this fight and gets right to work. But I can't sit back and rely on the UFC. So I think taking that next step towards you know someone on like the LFA circuit or like a Titan, someone I want to fight someone you know someone notable and get get a win over, maybe an older name or something that's going to put me in a position that is like a secured shot in the UFC. And if they're still not ready to make that call, because 155 is a very long list, and I'm realistic about the business side. If it is a very long list, then let's say contender series this summer. I think that's what we're working towards. And Iridium does an amazing job. Lance Spade is the best in the business. Jason House best in the business. So I don't think I'm going to have any issue getting on contender series this summer, if it even takes that long. I honestly, with the way my life has been moving and being out here in Vegas and just having my training partners, having the affirmation, being around everybody that's already deeply connected in the business, I don't even see it taking that long. It might be right after this knockout. We might get a call next week.
Hey, it's a possibility, and you're right there. As long as you're on weight, which you are, and you're local, that helps too. It means that, hey, if you need somebody to show up at the Apex, I'm there.
Dana, the Apex is 6 minutes from my apartment. I walk at 175 pounds. T-Mobile is 10 minutes. You ain't even got to pay for the hotel. I will put that on the back end of my check, though, if you do want to throw that. That ain't. No.
Hey, let's go. Let's make it happen. Josh, we have an important, since we're talking about the UFC fight, let's talk about UFC 284. You're a guy that I talk a lot of MMA with. And let's go right to the freaking main event, man. Like, let's talk about Volkanovski going up against Islam. I look at this fight. Wow, like I'm excited by it. Nobody's given Alex Volkanovski any respect. He's the number one pound for pound guy in the UFC. How do you see this fight going down tonight?
I got to be another person that's not giving Volk any respect. I'm sorry. It's just like he looks, honestly, he's done some amazing things in the sport, but he just looks so beatable. And Islam is just looking so unbeatable that I don't, and the size difference, I don't see him. Like whenever Connor came up from 145 to 155, he looked huge. He was fucking ready for lightweight. Volk does not look like a lightweight in his short frame. And I think Islam's just going to be too much with that top pressure. I think Volk might give him a hard time in the first round and keep it moving and do a good job on the feet. But if he doesn't clip him and start hurting him, then I just see Islam just taking him down and controlling him and just doing what those Dagestanis do.
In your professional opinion, what does Volk have to do in order to win?
Volk has to stay moving. He has to keep Islam recentering to him, and he has to land straight shots and shots over the top and keep Islam guessing, and obviously keep him off of the legs.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about Volk that we've seen time and time again is the low kick. He's really good at that. Does that change anything because he's going up against a guy like Islam? Islam could reach down and grab that leg. That's probably something that he might have to think about.
That's a really good point. I do agree with you on that, but also those low kicks could slow the takedowns down as well if he's able to get those off. And Volk, you could say the same thing about Holloway with how long he is with the right hands. You're not going to want to throw those low kicks, but because he's going to counter him, and that's what Holloway's really good at. But he was so good at his timing, and he's so good with all that he was able to chop that front leg, and that obviously was a huge factor in that fight. And that's just a huge part of his game. So, I mean, he might be able to use that to nullify the takedowns, honestly, and take advantage, of the fight. And if he can start to win early, maybe he could win it.
Scared money don't make no money. I'm putting $20 on Volk. Why not? Plus 350 underdog. Why not, dude? I've got to do that. I got to do that.
That's not a bad bet. I might go up to the casino tonight.
Yeah, why not? I look at that and I'm just kind of like, hey, you know what? If you're like telling me I have to take Volk, and Volk's no scrub. I have to do that.
They're telling me.
Yeah, they're telling me to do it, man. I have to. Are there any other fights that are happening tonight on the card that you're looking forward to?
Oh, Josh Emmett and Yair Rodriguez is
See, there you go. That's another one. I'm taking Josh Emmett on that fight.
I'm with you. So it's man. It's tough because Yair could knock him out early for sure. First 2 rounds, he could knock him out.
Calvin couldn't, and Shane couldn't, though. So let's remember that.
Exactly. Yes. But Emmett, and the way he moves too, and his wrestling, and Yair got wrestled by fucking Frankie Edgar. Like Josh Emmett's a whole nother animal than Frankie Edgar.
He is.
And
yes, he is.
Fucking no disrespect to Frankie Edgar, the OG, but fucking
we know what it was.
He's a lot smaller. He's a lot smaller than Yair, and obviously Yair's gotten a lot better since then. It's been a really long time, but if he can mix in his striking, you've seen Emmett knock people out too with his hands. I think he's gonna have a little bit of advantage with the boxing, but that's a good fucking fight, man. I think I got Emmett on that one as well.
I like, here's the thing about Yair, very talented guy. I see it. I think that the UFC is trying to push him, but he hasn't gotten that win yet. And I can't say the Ortega one. Ortega got hurt. That wasn't like a win. Ortega got
Right.
hurt. So
Right.
that was like the fight that they were trying to use to try to push up whoever. He ends up winning that one by default. And so it's like, to me, he still hasn't beat Ortega. I know the record books say different.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. He hadn't beat Ortega.
Yeah, like the record books say something a little different. I mean, they're pushing him up. And all of a sudden, he's in a interim title fight against Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's made that walk against he's fought some of the absolute biggest monsters in the UFC, and he's won. And
That's true.
And if he's an underdog for this fight, really, I saw that. I'm like, I will.
He's the underdog, huh?
He is, and I put some money on Josh Emmett. Not very much.
I might do. That's a good bet, right?
He was
there.
like plus 175.
Plus 175.
That's what I got him for. Now I don't know what he is now, but I saw that and I was like, I was going to bet Emmett as the favorite. Now you're giving me him as a dog. I got to take that. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh, before I let you go, I know that you have a lot of people that are in your corner that make your fight career possible. We'd be remiss to not mention them. Who are those people that you need to talk about before I let you go?
Absolutely. I have amazing sponsors, most of them back home in St. Louis. And I gotta say thank you to, and obviously if you guys have any of these needs, any of these things stick out to you, then you need to reach out to these people, especially if you're back in St. Louis. Tell them that you're with me and you're going to get hooked up for sure. Total Roofing St. Louis, 2 Car Guys down in Crystal City, Traditional 314-636, Best Mexican in St. Louis, Golden Toad Tattoo, go see my guy Ian Hines, Sports Analytics, if you're going to do any of your bets actually for the fights, go over there. DMB Slots of Fun, Reset STL, get yourself swagged out whenever you're in St. Louis. And just got a new sponsor, Paradise Pub, out here in Las Vegas. So whenever you guys are out here, come through. If you want to get some drinks, play some slots, they're open 24 hours. Billiards, darts, all the fun. You can get healthy food too up till 10 p.m.
All right. So if you don't want to be a fat ass, make sure you get your butt in there before 10 p.m. Josh, It's always a pleasure. I'm looking forward to your fight. I did want to ask, if people aren't in St. Louis, is there going to be a pay-per-view for your fight? Can people buy a pay-per-view too?
Yes, Fite TV app is going to have the pay-per-view. I think it'll become available that day, fight day.
All right, cool. We'll go ahead. I will grab that link. I'll put it in the description for this video. Make sure you guys tune in. Watch my man fight. He's a very, very special fighter. Josh, I get excited for you because I think you're right on the precipice of accomplishing very big things in the sport. This is like the 4th or 5th one of these that we've done. And in a short amount of time, your career has like really gone to a whole different level. And it's been really cool to see. And I think that in 2023, you're going to accomplish some great things, my man. I'm excited for you.
Thanks, Tyler. I couldn't agree more. I cannot fucking wait, man. It starts next Saturday.